Can you believe it? Scrappy. Yes, that's Scrappy. The man who somehow survived reality TV drama, social media chaos, and more shade than Atlanta has ever seen, is now dragging Kirk Frost straight to court. A hospital bed? Check. Viral memes? Check. Nationwide courtroom spectacle? Oh, you better believe it. This isn't some scripted reunion drama edited for ratings. This is allegedly real-life fists, bruises, and threats turning into legal papers thicker than a Kardashian's closet. Are we watching a reality star finally snap? Or is Kirk Frost about to learn that cameras don't forgive, and the internet certainly doesn't forget? Everyone's asking the same question. How did a feud that started with petty insults and reunion stage theatrics escalate to courtroom chaos? Tasha K leaks and hashtags trending faster than a new TikTok dance? Strap in, because this story isn't just messy. It's a full-blown national scandal that's rewriting the rules of reality TV justice, and the receipts are hotter than ever. You think you're ready for this? Think again. Atlanta thought it had seen it all. Reality TV stars duking it out on reunion stages, wild social media spats, and dramatic breakdowns that had fans glued to their phones. But nothing could have prepared the city for the latest explosion between Scrappy and Kirk Frost. Kirk Frost, the man who had mastered denial and dodged accountability at every turn, suddenly found himself facing consequences that no editing room could fix. Scrappy, on the other hand, was no stranger to conflict. He had survived years of betrayal, rumors, and manufactured drama, but this time it was different. This time it had escalated beyond the cameras and the hashtags. Scrappy ended up in a hospital bed, monitors beeping around him, while Kirk strutted like nothing had happened, apparently unaware that the world had changed in the span of a single shove. Atlanta's whispers had turned into headlines, and the story was everywhere. Scrappy was pressing charges, taking Kirk Frost to court, and the city could hardly keep up with the frenzy. For years, Kirk had been a fixture of tension on the show, always pushing boundaries, provoking others, and somehow maintaining a carefully constructed image of control and charm. But when reality collided with the physical harm caused to Scrappy, the spectacle that fans had enjoyed for years suddenly took on a terrifying new weight. Social media erupted as fans, influencers, and bloggers picked sides. Scrappy versus Kirk was no longer just entertainment. It became a test of accountability and consequences, a scenario where the cameras could not spin the truth. Scrappy's resolve was clear. He was calm but unyielding, his determination to hold Kirk responsible cutting through the noise and the theatrics. Behind the scenes, his family urged him to focus on recovery and let it go, but Scrappy refused. He had let things slide for too long. He would not allow the cameras to reduce his near-death experience to content. Every step he took from the hospital room to the courthouse was deliberate, measured, and loaded with intention. Meanwhile, Kirk tried to convince himself and Rashida that it was all blown out of proportion, that Scrappy was making mountains out of molehills, and that reality TV could not be taken seriously in a courtroom. But Rashida had seen the fear in Scrappy's eyes, heard his words as he lay on that stretcher, and understood the gravity of the situation. She could not pretend anymore that this was just another episode or a publicity stunt. The tension rippled through the cast as well. Yandandi Smith posted a cryptic message online warning that violence is not entertainment and that enough is enough, while Mendez Harris confirmed the sentiment, making it clear that public opinion was starting to shift. Fans dissected every word, every gesture, and every side glance, turning the feud into a spectacle that was both thrilling and horrifying. Youngjack tried to stay neutral in a messy interview, claiming to have seen both sides, but the public was not buying indecision. The narrative was already changing, with accountability taking center stage and the realization that this was not just scripted reality anymore. Scrappy's calm, collected demeanor contrasted sharply with Kirk's anxious energy. As the first court date approached, the tension escalated. Paparazzi lined the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed with cameras, and fans held signs demanding justice. The atmosphere was electric, the kind of energy that blurred the line between a trial and a media circus. Scrappy arrived first, sharp and composed, exuding quiet power, while Kirk arrived later, attempting to mask his panic with forced composure, Rashida clutching his arm in an attempt to steady him. The courtroom was filled with whispers, bloggers typing furiously and fans outside chanting. And when the judge entered banging the gavel, it was clear that the stakes had shifted from entertainment to real consequences. Scrappy's lawyer laid out the charges methodically, emphasizing that this was about more than a fight. This was about safety, accountability, and years of disrespect finally reaching a dangerous climax. Kirk's lawyer tried to spin the incident as a heated exchange, a misunderstanding blown out of proportion for entertainment value, but the tension in the room revealed that the story was far from simple. The evidence, the testimonies, and the raw emotion all painted a damning picture. Scrappy sat with his hands folded, jaw tight, eyes focused, embodying the kind of controlled determination that made it impossible to dismiss him. Kirk fidgeted, sweat forming at his temples, while Rashida's face betrayed the inner conflict she could no longer hide. Every camera angle, every flash, every whispered comment was part of the spectacle. But unlike the reunion stages, this was reality, and the consequences were real. Scrappy was ready to face the media frenzy, the courtroom tension, and the public scrutiny. His presence demanded attention, his composure inspiring respect, and his pursuit of justice signaling a shift in the balance of power. The courtroom, once a neutral space, was transformed into a theater where reality and truth collided, where manufactured drama met legal consequences, and where Scrappy's stand could no longer be ignored. The air was thick with anticipation, every movement scrutinized, every expression analyzed, and every whispered speculation amplified. And through it all, Scrappy remained steady, a figure of authority in a storm of chaos, as Kirk and Rashida struggled to maintain a facade that was quickly crumbling under the weight of evidence, testimony, and public judgment. The story only got more intense as the courtroom proceedings began, and the public watched every move with bated breath. Scrappy's team presented evidence with meticulous precision, highlighting not just the shove that landed him in the hospital, but a history of aggression and reckless behavior that Kirk had displayed over the years. Rumors of backstage threats, anonymous accounts of confrontations, and leaked footage that no one had seen before suddenly surfaced, adding layers of tension and suspense. Sources claiming to be former crew members whispered about lavish spending, private parties where intimidation was common, and incidents where Kirk allegedly tried to manipulate both cast and staff to avoid accountability. The courtroom atmosphere was thick, every word from the lawyers echoing like thunder in the tense room, and every witness testimony carefully dissected by the public and media alike. Scrappy, calm, and composed, listened to each claim, his presence alone commanding attention, while Kirk squirmed in his seat, forcing smiles that didn't reach his eyes, and glancing repeatedly at Rashida as if seeking a lifeline that wasn't there. Social media, though officially banned in the courtroom, erupted as snippets leaked outside, fans sharing clips of testimonies, analyzing gestures, and debating motives. An anonymous source claimed that Kirk had once threatened to withhold contracts or manipulate editing to make co-stars look bad, and this revelation sent shockwaves across fan communities, who began questioning how much of the show's drama was orchestrated and how much was real. Meanwhile, Scrappy's legal team dropped another bombshell by presenting what they described as never-before-seen footage, showing the moments leading up to the hospital incident, revealing taunts, escalating arguments, and Kirk's physical aggression that could no longer be explained away as playful rivalry. The gallery reacted visibly, some gasping, others whispering furiously to one another as the evidence painted a picture of a man who had repeatedly ignored boundaries until it culminated in a near-tragic incident. Rashida's expression, previously a mask of calm loyalty, now flickered with doubt and fear as she realized the weight of the accusations and the potential consequences for her family's reputation. Bloggers typed furiously, coining phrases that would trend for days and fueling speculation about resignations, lawsuits, and potential probes into the show's production practices. Every public statement, every defensive gesture from Kirk only seemed to escalate the tension and intrigue, making the courtroom feel more like the epicenter of a national scandal than a legal proceeding. Scrappy's demeanor remained a study in quiet intensity, each nod. In quiet intensity, each nod. Each folded hand and each unwavering glance, conveying a level of determination that seemed almost cinematic, forcing the world to acknowledge that this was about accountability and not entertainment. The lawyers' arguments were sharp, laying out financial implications, potential fines, and reputational damage with precision, painting a scenario where consequences extended far beyond the personal. Meanwhile, Kirk's attempts to deflect, justify, and minimize the incident were increasingly undermined by the cascading evidence, including internal messages and testimonies from people who claimed they had witnessed similar patterns of behavior. The tension outside the courtroom mirrored the drama within, with fans lining the streets, holding signs, shouting at reporters, and creating a frenzy that made it nearly impossible to separate reality from spectacle. Even those who had been ambivalent about the feud found themselves drawn in, debating endlessly whether Kirk's actions were excusable, a product of reality TV exaggeration, or indicative of a deeper character flaw that could no longer be ignored. The interplay between public perception, legal evidence, and the personalities involved created a situation that felt both volatile and irresistible, a combination that drew attention from every corner of the media landscape. In this charged environment, Scrappy's calm contrast to the chaos became increasingly symbolic, a representation of someone refusing to be reduced to a headline or meme, while Kirk's defensive posture and Rashida's conflicted presence added layers of tension and uncertainty. Every new revelation, every dramatic pause, and every flash of emotion was amplified by the audience's anticipation, creating a feedback loop of intrigue, speculation, and judgment that made the courtroom proceedings feel like a spectacle far beyond the control of either party. The stakes were no longer just personal or professional. They had become cultural, a reflection of how the world watches, judges, and reacts to reality when it collides with truth. As the trial reached its peak, the tension in the courtroom became almost unbearable, every eye fixed on the proceedings as if a single glance could alter the course of events. And Scrappy remained immovable, a figure of composed intensity while Kirk shifted nervously, trying to maintain control over a situation that was clearly slipping through his fingers, his usual bravado faltering under the weight of mounting evidence and damning testimonies. And Rashida, who had spent years defending him, now seemed to be holding herself together with sheer force of will, her eyes betraying the conflict she could no longer mask as she watched the unraveling of a narrative she had once tried to spin in their favor, and the gallery hung on every word, every piece of evidence, every subtle gesture, as if the room itself was collectively holding its breath, waiting for the moment that would tip the balance. And the lawyers continued their relentless presentation, weaving together witness statements, leaked communications, and video evidence into a coherent story that painted a picture of reckless aggression and long-standing disregard for boundaries, a story that the court could not ignore. And each revelation added another layer of pressure, making it clear that this was not just a case about a shove or a heated argument, but about accountability, respect, and the consequences of years of unchecked behavior. And the public outside mirrored the drama inside, with fans shouting, reporters scrambling to capture every soundbite, and social media feeds exploding with commentary and speculation, turning the courthouse into a theater of chaos where reality TV collided with reality itself. And the anticipation was almost tangible, like static in the air before a storm, because everyone knew that the verdict would not just affect the lives of Scrappy and Kirk, but would send ripples through the world of reality television, the way audiences consumed it, and the expectations of accountability for those who seemed untouchable. And when the judge finally spoke, his words reverberated through the room with a gravity that silenced the whispers and forced even the most skeptical observers to pay attention. And he outlined the ruling in a clear, measured tone, declaring Kirk guilty of assault and imposing probation, mandatory anger management, and a fine to be paid to Scrappy, establishing a precedent that consequences were real, and that no amount of fame or theatrics could shield someone from accountability. And the gavel struck with a finality that seemed to shake the air itself, causing a collective exhale from the courtroom, reporters snapping pictures, fans cheering or groaning, and Scrappy finally allowing himself a subtle nod, a quiet acknowledgement of the long-awaited justice that had been hard-fought and well-deserved. While Kirk sat frozen, his carefully constructed image cracking as he processed the verdict, the reality of his actions and their consequences pressing down on him like never before. And Rashida, still holding his hand, now appeared conflicted, a mixture of loyalty and disbelief crossing her features as the courtroom slowly emptied, leaving behind a trail of tension, emotion, and the echoes of a spectacle that had grown far beyond anyone's expectations. And Scrappy stepped out into the crowd of fans and media, his calm demeanor standing in stark contrast to the chaos around him, answering questions briefly, asserting that he wanted peace and truth to prevail over drama and speculation. And even as cameras followed him, capturing every step, every glance, every carefully measured word, it was clear that this was not the end, that the story had reached a significant turning point, but that the ripples would continue to spread through reality television, media culture, and the court of public opinion. And somewhere in the back corner, Tasha K smiled knowingly, phone in hand, as if to suggest that while one chapter had closed, there were still revelations to come, and the world would be watching, waiting, and reacting. Because when reality collides with truth, the spectacle is far from over. And the audience had been reminded in no uncertain terms that actions have consequences, and fame does not grant immunity, and the drama, controversy, and intrigue that had gripped Atlanta, and the nation was now firmly cemented in both legal history and pop culture consciousness. So, what do you think happens next? Will Kirk Frost finally face the reality he's been running from? Or is this just the beginning of another wave of chaos? Scrappy has shown the world that standing up for yourself matters, that accountability is real, and that fame cannot protect you from the consequences of your actions. But the story isn't over, and the receipts, the evidence, and the drama are far from fully revealed. This is your front row seat to a saga that has it all. Hospital beds, courtrooms, leaked footage, and personalities clashing in ways that reality TV alone could never script. Are you ready to see what happens when the cameras stop rolling and the truth comes to light? The next twist, the next revelation, could change everything, and you don't want to miss it. Make sure you stay updated because the drama is relentless, and the fallout could shock you in ways you never imagined. Like, comment, and share your thoughts. Who do you think really holds the power, and who will come out on top? Subscribe and turn on notifications to catch every moment, every reveal, and every explosive twist, because when reality collides with truth, you'll want to be there for every second.